welcome to my channel World of AWS. I hope you all are doing good. Myself Bipin Kumar, and we are going to learn Docker in this video. So I am going to start Docker tutorial from zero, but if you don't know Docker and what is Docker, how we can use it, then don't worry, I will show you from scratch. Okay, so what is Docker? So Docker is a virtual like machine, you can say virtual package. So suppose if you have a system and where you have installed Windows 10, Windows 10, okay, but if you want to install Ubuntu on that system, then how you can achieve that? You have to use virtual machine, okay, or else you can install Docker on that, and inside the Docker you can install Ubuntu there, okay. But what is the main difference between virtual machine and Docker? So like suppose if you are allocating 10 GB to virtual machine, okay, but it getting utilized only, the space is getting utilized only 5 GB. So 5 GB will be totally waste and it will not going to allocate to other resources, okay. But in Docker what we can do, we can like install any OS, and whatever resources we are allocating, the left resources will be allocated to other container or pod, okay. So that's the main benefit of using Docker. So you can just think like it's a virtual machine, okay, in the form of package. So why we use Docker? So before going ahead, we need to understand why we use Docker, okay. So I have created few points for that, so let me walk you through this. So every coder manage multiple project and create virtual machine for each project, correct? Yeah. So creating virtual environment is good practice if you are working with a single machine, okay. But when you have to run your project code on another machine whose configuration, OS library version, Python version and Python version are different from you, create a okay create a virtual machine, or virtual machine is challenging, okay, because you have to do a lot of configuration. So Docker saves you from saying okay, the code ran on my machine, but I am not sure why it doesn't run on your machine, okay. Suppose if you have written some code and that is running perfectly fine on Windows, but when you are trying to run your code on Ubuntu, then it's not running perfectly, okay. It's getting some kind of error it's throwing. So Docker enable you to run your project application code just the way you ran it on your machine, okay. So the first thing. Second one is, if you have used GitHub, then you know how easy it is to push your code changes and pull the project from anywhere in the world, okay. So I will make separate video on GitHub, don't worry. So in the same way, you can commit your project environment using Docker and pull it anywhere in the world. You can maintain the version 2 of your code, okay. Using Docker is much easier than installing all the libraries in an environment using requirement.txt or a virtual machine, okay. Just a single line of code and your project is ready to run. So it creates a highly optimized VM, okay, inside your local host, and is far more efficient than a VM, as it uses OS kernel efficiently, and it just 10 of MB in size. So it also don't take too much resources, okay. So that's why it's too much fast. So unlike a traditional VM, each VM include a full copy of operating system. Okay, so whenever you are running any code or any operating system on VM, then a separate VM will have full copy of OS. Okay, but in the case of Docker, you can have only one OS, and that can be used by many Docker file and pod. So VM can also be slow to boot. Docker also save you and other users to intervene in each other project by providing complete isolation. So the main feature of Docker, like all the pod and the container will be isolated from each other. So here I have one image, okay, one picture. Like from here you can understand like virtual machine and the container. So suppose we have app 1, app 2 and app 3. Okay, so here we have a separate library for app 1, we have separate library for app 2, we have separate library for app 3. Okay, and we have a separate OS for app 1 as well, we have separate OS for app 2 as well, and we have separate OS for app 3 as well. Okay, then we have hypervisor, then we have infrastructure like our server and like our database and the cloud. Okay, so in the case of container, like we have app 1, app 2 and app 3, and app 1 have their specific library, app 2 have their specific library, app 3 have their specific library, and we have here one container engine, and we have only one operating system that is getting shared and used by all the application. So like if we are installing three operating system, and if we are installing one operating system and we are using that specific operating system across the like multiple application, then surely it will save space, time and other stuff. Okay, so here we can see only one operating system we have in the case of container, but in the case of virtual machine we have like each one OS for each application. Okay, but here in the case of container we have only one OS for all the application. Correct, so that's why it's easy to use container and Docker. So Docker is like inside the Docker we can create our image, and using that image we can create pod and container. Okay, so I hope you understand like why we use Docker. So let's go ahead and discuss. So Docker a step by what is Docker? So Docker is a name of a company. Okay, yes, it is name of a company that launches open source Docker engine, okay, in the year of 2013. Now you must wondering, if Docker is the name of a company, then how do people use a Docker? Okay, let me introduce you to few very important terms. Docker image, container, running a container. Okay, so how to install Docker on your machine? So we have to go. Docker website has excellent step to assistant to install Docker on your machine. You can install Docker on Ubuntu, Mac, Windows, Debian, CentOS, Fedora, Linux. On each OS you can install Docker. So another thing we have images. What is images? Okay, so a Docker image is containing everything that needed to run an application as a container. That this include code, runtime, library, environment variable, and configuration files. Okay, so the image can be deployed to any Docker environment and executable as a container. Okay, so you can add comment to provide explanation, notes or context within the YAML file. Comments are ignored by parsers, okay, and are meant for human readers to better understand and the content. Okay, a Docker image is an environment in the cloud which you can download on your machine from the website of Docker, and you need to create your account there. So I will use GitHub as an analogy for your understand Docker, for you to understand Docker. Okay, so this was the introduction about Docker, and in the next video we are going to see how we can install Docker on our machine, and how we can pull image from Docker Hub, and how we can create Docker container. So that's it for this video. I hope you found this video informative and helpful. If you are new to my channel, then please do subscribe my channel, and if you have any query, then please do let me know in the comment section. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video.